Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I moved to Mexico as a single mom. Mexico was not on my radar when we first started traveling a few years back. I was actually terrified of Mexico because I'd heard all the terrible things about this amazing country over and over again. I mean, in the news, from family, from friends. Mexico is not talked about in a positive light, typically. At least it wasn't in my experience. So I was terrified to come to Mexico. But when we came to visit, because we were gonna go to a summit, I fell in love immediately with the beauty, the culture, the food, the people, just everything about it was so special. And I remember the first night we arrived, it was in Guanajuato City, and we were here for a World Schooling Summit. And I remember arriving late at night, and I was scared at first, but as soon as we drove into the city on our way to our Airbnb, I just felt at peace. And we got out and we got into our Airbnb that night. I felt like I had been lied to my entire life. I felt like everything that was said about Mexico was just lies, like someone had just been lying to me. And it doesn't mean that there aren't certain dangers in Mexico, but what I found through our travels is that there's dangers everywhere, especially in my home country of the US. So for me to pass judgment on a place I hadn't yet even been to was just crazy. And if I had listened to everybody else, I would have never experienced this amazing country. So that was our experience with visiting. But actually moving here, which happened much later, maybe a year after we initially visited, was a different story. So one of the reasons why we moved to Mexico was definitely cost of living. It's not the main reason, but your US dollar goes super far here, especially right now with the peso and with everything happening. You can just stretch your US dollar really far. You can hear my toddler in the background. She's enjoying life, swimming in the pool with her big sisters since we're still stuck in quarantine like the rest of the world. But that first trip to Mexico was life-changing. We left Mexico, went on to travel some more, but when times got tough, we ran right back to Mexico because it's the one place that we truly felt at home. And there's many reasons for that. But let's skip forward to getting to Merida, Mexico. So Merida, Mexico was just supposed to be a week-long visit. We were surprising a client of mine for her birthday, but I fell in love with the city immediately, and I fell in love with the energy of Merida. Merida has this special energy that I can't even put into words, but it is a sense of peace. It's a sense of slow living. It's the sense of ease when you're here, and a calmness about it. And it's intriguing and magical all in the same. But I remember getting out of the airport and getting in an Uber that first day we were visiting Merida, Mexico, and driving down Paseo de Mateo, which is this famous road here in Merida that's actually modeled after a famous road in France, I think in Paris. And it was just like looking at a mix of old San Juan, Puerto Rico and New Orleans, which are two of my favorite places visually during our travels. And I just was shocked because I was assuming that Merida would be very similar to the vibe and the look of Playa del Carmen, which I love certain aspects of Playa del Carmen, but didn't love a lot of it. So to see this, to see how different it was and how captivating the architecture and the beauty and the energy was of Merida was just like a shock to my system. I was instantly pulled in. And then I went to that surprise party. It was beautiful, beautiful experience, and I just saw all the people, the mix of locals and expats, foreigners, everyone mixed together, everyone loving life, dancing and celebrating the night away. And I just realized, like, this is what I've been searching for my whole life, this sense of family, this sense of a loving, supportive community. It was right here in Merida, and I absolutely needed to be a part of it. So we we were supposed to stay a week, which we did, and I was like contemplating not even getting back on the plane to go back to Guanajuato City, which is where all of our stuff was. It wasn't much, it was still like 3 backpacks and a suitcase because we had just came from Europe. And I just was like, I'm not getting on the plane, but eventually we did. We almost missed the first flight because we were running late to the airport, and then we fly into Mexico City, and I know I only have an hour. And anybody who's been in Mexico City airport knows how crazy it is, but I just start lollygagging around, like really slow, I don't even know why, and then we're just sitting by our gate. And eventually I get up and I go ask the gate agent, I'm like, you know, are we boarding our flight yet? And she's like, ma'am, that flight took off. And I've never ever missed a flight in my life. I was mortified, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to pay for another flight. This is totally my fault. But I went to the help desk and he was like, you had plenty of time, you had an hour, you know, and I just blamed it on the baby, to be honest. I was like, I had to change her, this and that. So they put us on a new flight, but it wasn't gonna be for 10 hours, which meant we were gonna stay in Mexico City airport because I was like, I'm not navigating Mexico City. What if we miss the next flight? After a few hours, I tried to put the flight into the app so I can get updates and all that stuff. And when I did, it said Merida. And I'm like, gosh, this is stupid. I must be typing in the wrong code. And I double checked it, I put it in again. And then I realized that they had actually booked us on a flight back to Merida instead of to Guanajuato City, where we're supposed to be going. And I know I'm still saying that city wrong after all these years, which is ridiculous. Don't kill me. But I go back up to the desk agent, this is hours later, so it's a new guy now, and he like is apologizing, not knowing that really the original missing of the flight was all my fault, but he was just so mortified at the fact that they had put me on a flight right back to where I had just come from. So I was actually gonna fly right back to Merida, but he switched it. We got on a flight an hour later, we were home in Guanajuato City that night. And I sat there. I had loved my home there. It was this cute little 2-bedroom little home in Guanajuato City, which was the first city we ever fell in love with in Mexico. And it was really hard to leave it behind, but I knew I had found something super special in Merida. So a week later, we had packed everything up. We told the owner we were moving, and we moved to Merida and started our adventure here. And this was a year ago now. But there were so many reasons of why I chose to move to Mexico. Out of all the places we had traveled to, Albania, Ireland, Italy, Kosovo, the United States, Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico had this feeling of comfort and peace, and I don't even know how to describe it. It just was so special. And I think you have to come here and you have to venture off from the tourist areas to really truly experience what I'm talking about. But the people were so kind and welcoming, and I just loved, I remember when we first visited, just seeing all the people talking to each other. Like, that seemed so foreign to me. Like, I didn't see a bunch of people on their phones. I saw people, old and young, actually like sitting on benches in the plazas and communicating with each other, holding conversations with each other, and seeing like the bands playing music, and just never feeling alone. Because you're always surrounded by people, especially in Guanajuato City. It was such a small place, but it was like jam-packed with people. So even at night, like, I never felt alone. I just felt like there were always people around me. But seeing people just have these conversations and laughing and talking to each other. And then how much they love children. It's been a challenge raising a very spirited child. My youngest is super spirited. She's super free. She loves to be barefoot and just running around without her top off and just loving life. And I've kind of raised her like that, which is very different than my older daughters. And whenever we went to visit the States after we started traveling, like, you know, people kind of stare at you if they're barefoot and all this other kind of stuff. Like, that wild and freeness is not really acceptable. But here, kids are able to just be free. The restaurants, a lot of them will have nannies and play centers where the nannies will take care of your kiddos while you can just sit and enjoy a meal or talk with your friends, and the kids can be kids. And here, you know, you could be walking down the street and an old woman or an old man will just like pat your child on the head or say how cute they are, in Spanish of course. And they're just so loving and welcoming to children. And then the whole concept of like family here and how, you know, families live together and often work together and support each other and love each other is something that just really, really drew me in. And then the sun, the weather, of course, depending on where you are in Mexico, things are different. You can't, you know, it's, you know, blazing hot in Merida, Mexico where I'm at, whereas in Guanajuato City, where I was before, it was a more mild temperament and didn't get too hot in the summer. And but there's always this sunshine, right? I haven't been all over Mexico yet, but I'm assuming for the most part it's just such a sunny place, and I thrive in the sun. And that's not even to mention the food. The food here is so freaking delicious. I have my toddler in my lap, so she might make some noise. Just playing with their hair while I do this. But the food is so delicious and so affordable, so I could eat as much as I want of it. But I feel like all the food is made with such love here. And you can go to like the local taco stand and get delicious food, or walk into a restaurant and get delicious food. It's just like amazing. I love how I can live a real slow life here. I don't have to rush in the mornings. I wake up slowly, I open the shades, I open the windows and let the morning breeze roll in. I can do the dishes slowly. I can write in the mornings, I can read, I can really design my day however I want. This is so different than my life back in the US, where I was rushing to get the kids off to school. I was rushing to get to school myself, or work, or somewhere. I just always felt like I was like sitting in traffic or rushing, or just this feeling of like urgency, like you have to get it done, you have to get it done. And here I don't feel like there is a sense of urgency. Actually, there's not, and it might get super frustrating for people because it's like super chill. And my toddler hopped out of my lap and now she's playing with her toys, so. But it's just this chillness of like, you'll tell the handyman, like, or he'll tell you like 2 p.m. he'll be over, and then it's like 8 p.m. when he rolls through, and he's just like, no big deal, like I arrive when I arrive. It's just this really laid back vibe of chillness, and it's okay, and you don't have to rush through life, and you don't have to, you get to enjoy the moments. You get to really be still and be intentional with your day. So these are just things that really pulled me in, and reasons why I moved to Mexico as opposed to any of the other places that we visited after full-time travel, like choosing a place to base ourselves. And I don't know if we'll always be here. I don't know what's next. I'm really feeling drawn to, and it could be because I'm trapped in my house right now in this quarantine, but I'm really feeling drawn to Europe, to like Portugal, or to like Peru, which isn't too far away. I'm really feeling a change of scenery, but my heart's just here in Mexico. I love it, and I feel like more people should check it out. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe, comment, and let me know what you want to see. And what are your thoughts? Have you been to Mexico? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Until next time.